Cool.
We can start.
Yeah. So it sucks our last video just.
I know. It's been trouble. Like, I used to, when I was filming like multiple times a week, I had like everything down in my head, but now there's just little things I've been missing. But I think having these mics, having a checklist to make sure the camera has actually got people in focus and everything, I think we'll be able to be good. The problem is going to be when if we have a third person setting up the microphones again and making sure that's all synced up.
What we could just use the stands of microphone, like the ones we were using last.
Yeah, I know, but that's where we've been running trouble with it. Yeah, because you got to sync the audio between the two, unless I run that straight to the camera, which is a pain in the butt too. So either way, it is what it is.
Yeah. So like we discussed last time, I think our last video we were talking about kind of fitness in general, or is that the one that we can't?
Yeah, I mean, I have the audio for it. The audio sounds great, but yeah, the video, the camera died. Turned the video back on. When I turned the video back on, it was out of focus. So, yeah, that was the problem that happened. I didn't think when I turned it back on, I thought the settings would carry over. I didn't think to recheck and make sure it was actually in focus. So,
right. Well, part of our podcast, is about health overall, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about fitness, the importance of jiu-jitsu, and like why we love jiu-jitsu, and the fitness is kind of built into that. Like you have to be in shape.
I know some black belts.
Yeah, but I mean,
if you want to be at a higher level, fitness is part of the deal.
Right. At one point, they were in pretty good shape, but fitness is like
fitness helps jiu-jitsu is how I'd phrase it.
It helps jiu-jitsu, but it won't.
Yeah. Because have you seen some of those videos of some of the big dudes in tournaments? Well, rocking that 30% body fat.
Yeah. And you see some guys in like the UFC or MMA. They're fighters that had to become athletes.
Yeah.
And then athletes that became fighters.
Yes.
But either way, the cardio for fighting is a little bit different.
See, for me, fitness has always been nothing but longevity.
Right.
Yeah. That's the only reason. Because, once I had a daughter, I started focusing on,
I know.
I got to be alive to see my grandkids if she decides to have kids. You know what I mean? I want to see my daughter grow up. So that was my primary driver for fitness.
It's weird how having kids does that to you. It's like this primal instinct. Like you have a child and you're like, oh, it's no longer about me.
Yeah.
And so like, that's what I've been doing. And when I had Genevieve, I was like, man, I got to get my health in order.
Yeah.
I wasn't unhealthy. I mean, I used to be, I was 376 in 1995 after high school, was pre-diabetic and all this stuff. And fortunately I went on the right path at the time.
Yeah.
So that was back when, it was during the fat-free craze and all this stuff. And so I kind of did that rice, broccoli, chicken diet while I was working out.
Yeah.
And it worked, but I just didn't feel healthy.
Well, see, for me, it was when because I never really got above 20-ish% body fat. Since I started getting in shape, I'd say when I was in my early 20s, I was probably a couple times I was pushing up above that. But at 24, when I started working for the gym industry, so I would say from the time I was a kid till the time I was 20, I was fine, never above 20% body fat. 20 to 24, I probably got above there a couple times. But then 24, I started working for the gyms because it was my job. And then from that point forward, I was never really above 20% body fat, but carrying a lot of muscle for even being at 20% body fat.
And also when you're in that environment, when you're around fitness industry and you work at fitness industry, you're around it. So you're putting yourself in an environment where you almost have to be.
Well, and that was my dating pool.
Right.
So I was single, I became single at 25. So from 25 till I met Liz at 30. So for that 5-year period, I was single, and my dating pool was women in the gym. So I had if I wanted to go out on any kind of dating, I had to be in shape. I was competing with a bunch of dudes who were already in shape. So
Well, I even remember back then, like the 90s, like obesity was a thing. It always has been.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like the halfway point of where we're at now. Like there was obese people, but there was a lot of people that were in good shape, even in the 90s.
Yeah, well, if you go to the pool and you see a bunch of teenagers and kids that didn't have their shirts on, and very few of them were very obese. And now you see a lot of kids who who probably are medically classified as obese when you go to any kind of public pool.
Well, when I was in high school, I graduated in 95 from Enumclaw. And it was me, a friend of mine, and then there was 2 or 3 other kids throughout high school that were big, right? So the percent population of obesity at our school from observing, who's going to school, it wasn't that high.
Yeah.
Now it's probably there's a lot of big kids.
There is.
And so you can just see if you just look around at people on the street, at the store. You can tell it's gone up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, statistically it has. I mean, it's just kind of a matter of fact. But see, like, even for me, so you talked about like eating clean and optimal. When I saw the first time I did the ketogenic diet, which is, or ketogenic, however you want to say it, I think I was 25. So you're talking almost 20 years ago. Was the first time I did zero carb for 16 weeks.
Right.
Zero carbohydrates. So I actually was using the keto stick. So I actually got into, I know for a fact I was in ketosis for took me probably 10 days to like fully get into ketosis. And for the remainder of the 16 weeks, I was in full ketosis the whole time.
Right.
But I did notice my athletic performance from jiu-jitsu went down big time.
Right.
It was a significant decrease.
Well, the funny thing is, like, so when I started losing weight, I felt great, but I was so into it, I went to school for it. And in hindsight now, knowing what I know now, everything I learned was BS, like when it comes to nutrition. And there's an old adage in medical school, like 50% of what you learn 5 years later will be incorrect. You just don't know what 50% it is.
Because it's kind of a science, right? Well, science has changed.
Well, the scientific process is sound. It works well if it's done correctly. But all the studies on nutrition, from what I've seen, you have Ansel Keys. He did the Minnesota starvation experiment. He did the 7 Nations study. You had the Women's Health Initiative, where they tested a bunch of nurses. You have all these studies that were basically observational. And the best thing an observational study can do is show correlation, not causation.
Yeah.
And what that should do is that should give you a starting point to develop a hypothesis that you can do a randomized controlled trial. To date, the only RCTs that have been done have been funded by big pharma and big industry.
Randomized controlled studies.
Randomized controlled trials, yes. And those are, if they're done correctly, they work. But the problem is with nutrition, it would cost so much money to do that because you'd have to develop an N equals.
It's very hard to control for.
It's very hard to control for. And N equals, that's basically the number of participants. And you would have to have several hundred. But the more you have, the better the results are going to be, right? So there's going to be spread out more. There's going to be more skewing.
More genetic variables.
But it would be sound. But when it comes to nutrition, you'd have to have somebody follow each participant around to record what they're eating, what they're doing, what's their...
Or pull them somewhere and feed them.
Or put them in a vault, and that's really the only way to do it. So we've had to settle for observational studies. The problem is they're making rules and advice and facts based on observation, which you can't do, right? So
by design, it doesn't control for variables. It's only watching one variable without controlling for any of the other variables in those people's lives. So when you see that studies that red meat is tied to cancer and you should limit your red meat intake because of that, what they're not telling you is they only observed this group of people, they all eat red meat. This many people out of that group got cancer, but they're not saying were the people also smokers? What else are they eating?
Right.
Do they drink? Are they drug use? They're not accounting for any other variables. They're only looking at that one variable and then trying to propose a causation, essentially, even though they're not going to frame it like that. They're going to use gray language so you don't know. But there is essentially applying causation to one thing that person is doing in their life when there could have been other variables contributing to that outcome.
And a lot of times they ignore that.
Yes, because they do it purposefully because it's sensationalized headlines to get clicks.
Right. And
maybe pushes some agendas, we don't know.
And they also get their information, their data from self-reporting. So if I go home and I eat, some people are going to be more prone to omit certain things that they ate, or they don't want to be seen as doing something bad. So they're going to say they didn't eat it when in fact they did. And that's going to skew the results. And a lot of we've all heard of the food pyramid, is that grains at the bottom.
It's 6 now.
6 to 11,
It's much closer. Yeah.
It's better, but it's still... There shouldn't even be a food pyramid.
Yeah, the government shouldn't. Yeah.
But like the whole food pyramid that we had for years where you have, 6 to 11 servings of grains a day and then fruits and vegetables and then limit the fats and, the butter and all that stuff. That was based off of a pyramid that Sweden did back in the 70s that was based off of rationing. They had some sort of famine type thing going on, so they had to ration food. Here's what we have an abundance of. Here's what we don't have an abundance of. And they happen to have an abundance of grains. So they wanted people to eat grains. So it wasn't based off nutrition. It was based off of rationing.
Yeah.
But we took that and we're like, let's do it. And they had this study. I don't know if anybody's heard of Ansel Keys. He was a former scientist, or he's passed away, but he was a scientist that was funded by the sugar industry years ago. We're talking 50s, 60s. He did what's called a 7 Nations study. He went to Europe, observed the eating habits of people in Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, found that a lot of them, and he had this hypothesis that eating red meat and fat causes heart disease because of cholesterol. So he had that in his mind. He goes over there, observes all these nations, there's 22 nations in total, comes back and says 7 of the nations showed a lot of red meat consumption and high heart disease. The other 15 did not. So he didn't want to report those 15 because it went against his hypothesis. So he just reported on the 7 nations. That developed into our saturated fat is bad for you, causes cholesterol.
Who is it that the sugar industry wound up actually funding? They say bribing. I don't know. Like I know about it. I don't know the very specifics about it, about how they went about transferring money to essentially shift the blame from sugar to saturated fat.
That was the Ansel Keys.
Okay.
That was that study. That was one of them. They've done a bunch of them, but
remember to put sugar on our sugary cereal in the morning?
Right.
I used to get up and get Cheerios, like, Frosted Flakes. They already had frosted with sugar. And then we had on our table at our house, we had a bowl of sugar and a spoon that we just kept there. And I would always put sugar on top of my Frosted Flakes.
Yeah.
And then it'd be at the bottom with the milk. And then you'd be like scooping out the sugary milk at the bottom and eating it.
Well, you know what's funny?
Kool-Aid? Remember Kool-Aid?
When we did that, that was actual cane sugar.
Yeah.
So the Frosted Flakes we ate, the Fruit Loops and all that,
Yeah.
it was cane sugar. Now it's high fructose corn syrup, it's maltodextrin, it's sucralose, it's all these other, there's over 100 different names for sugar that they put in ingredients.
When I was trying to gain weight, when I was powerlifting, I would make protein shakes with maltodextrin powder in the protein shakes, just to bump up the calorie intake.
Right.
Because it was cheap calories. You could buy a big bag of that powder for like $20.
Right.
And it just bump up the calories.
Yeah. Well, because I'm a firm believer, all the studying I've done, college, even just reading books now, it's like, it's not saturated fat.
No.
At all.
No.
Like we store fat on our body. Like historically, if fat was bad for you, why would we store it on our body, right? It's
Well, every cell in your body is comprised of saturated fats.
Well, cholesterol, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so cholesterol, every cell in your body needs cholesterol. It's what creates that lipid membrane or the lipid envelope. And the stronger that is, the less degradation and mitochondrial dysfunction you're going to have. So cholesterol is used. It's a paramount. If you don't have cholesterol in your body, you're dead.
So a lot of the problem when it comes to like diseases, obesity-related illness, is not the fat. Well, fat does a couple things. Like visceral fat, particularly, is highly inflammatory. But what it comes down to isn't like people think they have this envision of this healthy artery in their heart, and then fat sticking to that and clogging. But fat doesn't really want to stick to healthy arteries. It wants to stick to hardening arteries. Yeah,
It wants to be used.
So it's when your arteries start to harden and become less pliable and less flexible and they become inflamed, that inflammation and that hardening attracts the fat that's going to stick to the artery that's going to cause it to clog. It's really hard for fat to cake itself to like healthy, pliable, good arteries. Right. So really, I think the culprit from the fat perspective is your body fat clearly increasing, causing more inflammation in your body, causing everything to kind of break down your body, including your arteries to kind of harden and become less healthy. And that in turn is what causes your arteries to clog over time.
Well, so if we think of it this way, it's like, why would we have unhealthy arteries? Well, you have to kind of back it up, right? Like, let's look at it at a historical perspective, like the evolution of humanity. And you can go back, I go back 2 million years. I go back to our genus Homo. We kind of interbred with like Neanderthals, Homo erectus, habilis, all this stuff. And we became Homo sapiens because we all have certain parts, certain DNA from like Neanderthals and all that, right? As we developed as a species, evolution picks the strongest traits possible. And what kind of food was around back then? Animals. sometimes fruits, depending on the season,
Sometimes vegetables,
but not always. Like it's seasonality. Right?
Yeah.
Neanderthals was Northern Europe, Northern Asia. It gets cold. During the wintertime, you're not eating fruit. You're not eating berries. You're eating fat,
Primarily fat.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that were the cause of heart disease, we would have died off long ago because that's what we were exposed to. We used to hunt and forage for their food. Now we're at a point where our food is hunting and foraging for us through marketing and advertising. You can't go anywhere in any town and not see a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Starbucks. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
You go to a grocery store, the 80% of what is sold in the grocery store is processed food. Like, did you see that? It was kind of funny that reel or YouTube short or whatever, it was the Burger King CEO taking a bite of their new burger.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good burger.
Who was the one that did a rebuttal though?
McDonald's.
I like the McDonald's guy. He was like, all right.
I'll tell you what, he was the most honest CEO of a fast food company I've ever seen. And here's why. He does it. He gets his little rat claw fingers and he's this pasty white guy and like just nothing there, just skin and bones, right? He holds it like this and like takes this little bite and he's like, that's a good product. And that was the most honest thing I've ever heard.
The McDonald's guy?
Yeah.
Who was there was another CEO of another company that put out like a rebuttal video where he like went in and he like took a big bite of his burger and he's like, that's a good burger. He looked like a guy that liked burgers.
Yeah. Well, that might have been done after the McDonald's. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. So the McDonald's did one first and then another company put out like a rebuttal with their CEO actually like eating the burger.
But when he said it was a good product, I was like, that's it right there. That's
a product.
It is a product. Like all the foods, if it comes in a bag, a box, or a can, it's processed. And you literally have scientists hired by big industry, like Kraft, Nabisco, General Mills, whatever. Teams of scientists trying to create food in the lab. And I don't want to call it food. I want to call it edible products. But they create this stuff in the lab. They put artificial flavors, which are chemically made. Nothing that you eat in a bag or box.
Isn't everything a chemical though?
But now,
Like, have you ever seen the chemical composition of like a banana?
oh yeah,
Because I go down this rabbit hole on definitions. And I'm not trying to be argumentative, but like technically everything is natural because everything comes from the earth. So like where is the actual line between man-made versus not man-made? If you're making sourdough bread, that end product is man-made because you're using things from nature, just like in another product, to actually make the bread.
well that's true. So you got carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? Those are the building blocks of life, the main elements. You're not gonna like. Can you go out into nature right now and find sucralose?
No, of course not, bro. You couldn't find sourdough bread either.
Right. You couldn't find sourdough bread. That doesn't mean it's not made from stuff on earth. It just means you're not going to find it in nature.
Yeah, fair enough.
Throughout our evolution, we haven't been able to seek out sourdough bread. We haven't been able to seek out Fruit Loops.
Yeah, no,
right.
I agree.
And so what they're doing is our processed food. They're taking, like, think of cocaine, right? Never done it ever, but it comes from the coca leaf.
You're missing out, man.
Right, I know. Part of me's always wanting to try it, but
No, it's so bad. It's so bad.
yeah, we'll stay away from it. But it's a coca leaf. So the coca leaf in nature has a certain amount of it. You probably can't overdose on it. Same with the poppy seed and heroin and opiates, right? But when you
refine it,
when you refine it and you pull that out, that's when you get high from it. The same thing with sugar.
So I was thinking about this last night because I had I don't eat carnivore. I eat very clean. My blood work is near perfect.
For you.
But yeah. Well, I mean, medically, like if you were to map my blood work against most people my age, I'm in like the top percentile,
right.
Top 1 percentile. Like I have very, 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 very low inflammation markers in my bloodstream. So like we grapped out my inflammation when I got my last blood work done, and I was at like 1% or 1.5% or something like that inflammation markers in my. And that's with I have arthritis in both elbows, both thumbs, and my back on my inflammation marker. I had a 14% blockage in one of the arteries in my neck. Found out about it. The following year, I kind of updated my supplement routine over that next year, and my goal was to reduce my body fat. Because that scared me. What's funny is that wasn't even high for my age group. Like, so the average person over the age of 40 gets a 1% blockage increase
every year
in their artery, in their neck every year. But over that next year, my main method of attack was attacking my visceral fat, because visceral fat is inflammatory. And like I was talking about earlier, inflamed arteries attract blockages and attract matter to it that will cause blockages much easier than non-inflamed arteries. So my main method of attack was attacking inflammation. My main thing would do that. I do, of course, did it through diet. I hardly ever eat fat. I have a couple caveats. Every now and then when I'm up in Federal Way, I'll stop and get a Popeye spicy chicken sandwich because I like them. You're talking once a month, maybe even less than that. Maybe there's a couple months that go by where I don't. And I get espresso yourself. I'll get like a breakfast burrito or a wrap, which is eggs. It's just breakfast food in a tortilla. Tortilla is probably not the best choice, but it's quick and easy. But I reduced my visceral fat by, I don't know, I wound up losing like 8 or 9 pounds of visceral fat over that next year.
Right.
So my visceral fat is very low into the healthy range now. By adding a couple supplements and lowering my visceral fat, which in turn lowered my overall body. I went from 290-ish pounds down to 248-ish, 249-ish pounds.
Is that where you're at now?
Yeah, 248.
And he's maintained, right?
Yeah, I've maintained for a long time now. So I went down to 248 pounds. But just doing that, reducing my overall weight, focusing on my visceral fat, and adding some some good, I don't care if it says supplements work. It drives me nuts people say supplements don't work. But adding a few supplements into my diet, they do like, what do you call it when pregnant women get? Ultrasound.
Well, it's the carotid intimate media thickness test that they do, the ultrasound on the carotids. Yeah.
So it was barely noticeable.
Right.
Like I went from
After the
14, after the fact, my second scan a year later, or it would be my third. But it was barely noticeable. Like this is crazy. You actually reduced from 14% to barely noticeable, when most people your age cutting out alcohol too. I cut out.
Yeah.
So I stopped alcohol for that entire year, and now I've had maybe once a month or twice a month I'll have like 2 ounces of whiskey, and that's it. Because I do like whiskey, I do like scotch, so I'm not going to limit it for myself. But I have good self-control with most things, not all things. So I was able to get rid of that. But I literally reduced my blockage. Yeah, it was like the relief that came over me after that second scan. I was like, oh my gosh, it is gone,
dude. It's so nerve-wracking. I got my first one at Rainier Family Medicine. Love that place.
Yeah, that's where I go.
When I right before I was doing carnivore for like 6 months at the time. Went in and got the scan at 46 years old. My cardiovascular age was 31. I had some plaque buildup, but nothing that was like, it was top 0.1%, right? Whatever. So I'm like, I continued to do carnivore because that was my starting point halfway through. So I didn't know what I was like before that.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but I can build from my last test. Went carnivore, then I went modified carnivore, and I started experimenting with all these different nutritional protocols. And a year and a half later, I got my carotid artery scan again when I was 40, just turned 49, I think. It was at the end of, right before 49 or just after, but a year and a half later, right? Cardiovascular was 28. So it went down. I had plaque regression.
Yeah, so
that's from eating nothing but saturated fat, protein, high cholesterol.
Yep.
Like my cholesterol markers, if I went to a cardiologist or a statin influencer, what I call him, he freaked out. He did
statins.
You need a high dose statin. You need a high intensity statin.
Don't do statin, folks. I mean,
statins are
in general. I never like to speak in absolutes because I'm not a doctor. There might be a circumstance where a statin would be warranted, but I think they're going to be very few and far between, significantly less than we're prescribing them out nowadays.
Well, if you ask if you go to a doctor and you have high cholesterol and you eat the standard American diet, they'll talk to you about statins. There's some things you need to ask your doctor before they prescribe you a statin. Ask them what the NNT is, the numbers needed to treat. Ask them what the absolute risk is, not the relative risk. And here's the difference. Let's say you have a 2% chance of having an MI, a heart attack. Putting you on a statin can decrease that to 1%. The relative risk is a 50% reduction. And that's what they advertise. The absolute risk is 1%. So you're only going down 1% of having a heart attack, which to me, the side effects from statins, which can be blood sugar issues, it can lead to prediabetes or type 2, although that's...
But they're getting better. I heard they're getting better with statins. They're like more targeted, more refined, like better statins that are able to...
They say.
Yeah, they say.
Yeah.
But I haven't read enough on it to be super... I was, when I got that 40% blockage, that was a conversation that I had. And kudos to my medical professional over there at Rainier Family Wellness. He goes, That's our last resort. He goes, I'm not going to take it off the table, but let's try these things first. And that's when we started talking about my supplement routine. And really, like, I did I don't know what to call it, a panel where it tells you how good like the vitamin levels in your blood are, like how good your methylfolate is, how good your vitamin D is. And he goes, let's perfect this. Right. Give it some time, and then we'll discuss if we keep seeing that 14% blockage grow, whether or not we go on statins. So we really rigorously attack. It's a little bit of an investment, but it's not more than eating out one time. So how much I spend on supplements every month is I spend probably $100 a month on supplements just to keep my blood work near perfect. And
Which is, by the way, less than people spend on fast food.
that's what I'm saying. That's less than eating out one time for a family,
Right.
is how much I spend. And the amount of years that would add to my life from having that regression in my blood work or in my inflammation and having my blood panels be near perfect is more than worth it to me. Right. AM cortisol, that's why I say near perfect. AM cortisol was a thing that was off for me. And I'm attacking that this year to retest it again in a year.
Well, statins have their place, right? It's
Very specific and much, and I think, and in my personal opinion, they should be prescribed much less than they are nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. And what they're finding is the statins are best prescribed to people post-MI, which means you had a heart attack, you already have arterial damage. Well, we need to keep that cholesterol down. Why? Because your arteries are damaged, and the cholesterol that you have in your body can become atherogenic because of that damage. But you have to back it up. It's reversible. Like right now, in our
I reversed it, the need for
Right.
well, most doctors would have put me on a statin, and now I'm at the point where I don't need a statin.
right, and where we're at right now, nutritionally, I mean, if you look at the drugs that are prescribed in this country, we are 5% of the world's population. We consume half the world's drugs. So think about that. 5%, 1 out of 20.
Could we have an eagle noise and an American flag go over this?
Yes, America. But and then we also have our obesity rates. Like obesity, a lot of people say it's genetic, and there are genetic variables towards obesity.
Food noise.
Well, it's food noise, but also you have certain genetic mutations that, based on the environment you're in, can be turned on and off, right? These can predispose you towards obesity, but there is no gene that says you are going to be obese.
Even something like your sleeping habits
Right.
play a huge role in the amount of calories consumed when they actually look at it, right?
Right.
So we look at it from two different perspectives. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm not sold on carnivore being the way to be.
No.
But that being said, I do think when it comes to if a good start for anybody is just pay attention honestly to what you're eating every day.
Yeah.
Track rigorously, meaning if you walk by the counter and you grab a handful of nuts on the dish that's on the counter at your grandma's house. My grandma has a counter of. Yeah.
I think they all do.
Yeah. Like if you're eating, like log that, you'll be surprised if that's 120 calories and you're doing that 4 or 5 times a week. At the end of the week, that matters. You're adding extra 600 calories that you're not accounting for. If you're drinking a glass of wine every night, a bottle of wine is a little over 1,000 calories last time I checked, depending on the kind of wine. So if you're drinking half a bottle of wine every night, you're adding 500 calories. After 10 days, that's 1 pound of fat. That's 5,000, a little bit under. There's 5,000 calories.
Oh, and real quick about wine, the resveratrol that people talk about from drinking red wine, you would have to drink 10 bottles of wine in one sitting to get the amount of resveratrol that, I mean, challenge accepted for some people.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
How much is a pound of fat again? 5,500 calories?
Well,
3,500.
3,500.
3,500, yeah.
If you do
So
the
over
math
half
on
that.
that, it's 9 calories per gram. There's 28 grams in an ounce, 16 ounces in a pound. That's 4,032.
Okay.
I don't know where they come up with 35.
So if you drink a glass of wine a night that you're not accounting for in your calories, half a bottle of wine a night, which I know a lot of you out there do. I mean, that's really 2 big glasses of wine, right? You're basically adding 1 pound of fat that you're not accounting for calorie wise every 10 days, or more than a pound every 10
on
days.
the surface, yeah. I mean, mathematically.
Mathematically, yeah.
But like obesity, like we've always had obesity throughout humanity be anywhere from 1 to 10%. It just depends on the region and the environment, right? But that has stayed linear up until the 1970s after the Ansel Keys study, where they said bring saturated fat down, increase your grains, which is basically sugar. Obesity has gone up. As obesity's gone up, our cholesterol recommendations have gone down. So correlation shows the lower your cholesterol, the more likely you are to become diabetic and obese. And of the drugs that are prescribed in this country, the top 20 are for metabolic diseases, autoimmune diseases, and mental health issues.
All right, we're back at it. We finished that. We start over with that last thought map.
When did it go out?
Like literally 10 seconds where we did, but we were talking about the correlation of our diet.
Like the top 20 drugs.
Yeah.
So the top 20 drugs are all for metabolic.
No, we're talking about the correlation of how we change our eating habits, which cause cholesterol.
Oh, right. So as obesity went up, it started going up in the 70s. And this is right after the Seven Nations study, where they started recommending eating more grains, bringing down saturated fat, eating less red meat, getting more seed oils, like more corn oil, safflower, whatever. As we've done that, our obesity's gone up, our cholesterol ranges have come down. So correlation would show that the lower your cholesterol, the more likely you are to become obese and diabetic. But that doesn't mean it's true. And that's the problem with these studies that have been done up to this point. They're trying to make truth out of correlation. The problem is a lot of the foods we eat are created in a lab by scientists with white lab coat.
They're not grown, right? It's not naturally produced.
Our mic's not going to pick that up.
They won't pick it up?
No, I mean, if they do, I'll be able to cut it out. Wow. It's my very trippy ringtone.
Yeah. Well, we went from foraging and hunting for food, for having food hoard, is hunting and foraging for through marketing, whatever, like I said before. The problem is the food we're bringing in is concentrated. There's no fiber. They're ripping out the fiber. They're ripping out its natural state. And we have evolved to eat it in its natural state. So let's take sugar, for example. Mm-hmm. If I ate, what would affect your hormones more? 100 calories of an apple versus 100 calories of applesauce versus 100 calories of apple juice.
Apple juice for sure.
Apple juice for sure. That's going to spike your blood sugar. It's going to ramp up your insulin, which is going to increase your cortisol, which is going to cause glycation.
That's going to make you more hungry.
And it 100% makes you more hungry. And what it's doing is when we eat these concentrated foods, the sugar is like cocaine. It works the exact same receptors in your brain. And what that does is it releases dopamine, which is, dopamine's not the pleasure hormone that people think it is. What it is a conditioning hormone. It's a routine maker, a habit former. The higher your dopamine, the more reinforced that habit becomes. And that's where we come to our sugar addiction. We seek it out. We want it because we got such a high from it. And we don't even know we're getting high from it, right? We've got this abundance of energy. Like if you ever see a kid, a small toddler, eat his first piece of cake, he looks like he's in bliss.
Like eat a lemon.
Right.
Right. They usually see those kids. But no, I do.
But it's just, it wires them. So the dopamine releases, it reinforces that behavior, and we continue to seek that out. And the problem is our environment is saturated with that stuff.
Yeah.
So our hormones are dysregulated because of that. And so we got to kind of back ourselves up.
Even stuff you wouldn't think, like McDonald's French fries has a lot of sugar in it from what I understand.
The bun, the bun.
Maybe it's the bun. Maybe it's not the French fries. I don't know.
The buns and the meat and basically anything you eat at a fast food restaurant is not going to be found in nature. That's why you can take a Big Mac, like that one guy did, put it out on the counter and left it there. Nothing happened.
Have you seen the test that debunked that though? Another person took a 80-20 patty and made it the same size as the McDonald's one, just out of meat from a cow that you got at a butcher shop. And it had more to do with the thickness and drying out than it actually had to do with the actual thing. Now, I'm not accounting for the bun not getting moldy,
right?
But I'm accounting for the meat at least not molding or going bad. It very closely resembled the McDonald's meat patty.
It can, but if you do, okay, let's say a Twinkie.
Yeah,
put a Twinkie out there. It might get
look at margarine versus butter.
Right, that's a perfect example. So we've been told to eat these seed oils like margarine, which is not found in nature at all.
I can't believe it's not butter, but Fabio ate it.
Fabio, he also got hit in the face by a bird. So
that's true. That's true.
Not his fault, obviously, but the point is the point is if we eat foods in their natural state, the one ingredient foods, we won't be experiencing the types of metabolic issues that we have right now, right?
Yeah.
And another issue is, like when I did my experiment with carnivore, I'm not saying carnivore is the end all be all and what everybody needs to do. Obviously, I don't want everybody to do that because I want more meat for me.
Yeah.
Great. But I'm kind of experimenting with it. Like when I did carnivore, best I ever felt, 10 out of 10. Beautiful sleep, perfect sleep, rest, no inflammation. I wasn't sore. I was able to think clearly. Body fat came down. I got down, I'm 188 pounds as of this morning. I'm doing carnivore kinda, but I'm adding in crucifers and berries because of seasonality, right? So I'm kind of experimenting with that. My cholesterol's through the roof. So my LDL last check was 350.
My total cholesterol was 455. If I took that to a cardiologist, boom, statin, right?
But I bet you our doctor probably, he's a PA-G. I don't know what that is.
Well, I go to Gina, so.
Oh, yeah.
But same thing, right?
But yeah, I bet, was she super concerned about it?
No.
Yeah.
No, they
They look at other markers.
they look at other markers, and I told her, I go, this is what I want for my blood.
Well, we get much more extensive blood work than the average person gets when we go and get our blood work. Remember what's geeking out about sending our results back and forth? Like our list of blood work is like this, where most people get this. And they base their recommendations off of much more limited info.
Well, they blaze based off the standard lipid panel, which is total cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, right? But what type of LDL do you have? What type of HDL do you have? I also want to know about my VLDL. Now, I want to see the percentages. I want to see the rate of oxidation. I want to see how much of that is atherogenic. Like small particles atherogenic versus large and fluffy is not. My large and fluffy, or pattern A for LDL, was extremely high. My small particle was extremely low. But
yeah, that's how mine was too last time.
It's relative, right?
Yeah.
My HSCRP, which is high sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is released when you have inflammation. So it's a good marker to show inflammation. It was in the basement. I mean, it was super low. That tells me that for my body, carnivore, low carb, high fat is the way to go. Yeah. But that's for me.
I mean, that's essentially what I did. So we just went about it different. And I would go as far as to say that when my default when I'm trying to clean things up is to go primarily meat based. I don't go all the extreme to full carnivore, but I mean it's very straightforward for me. If I'm trying to affect change, I see a change needs to be affected. I try to cut out as much of the preservatives as I can. I try to get back to whole natural foods, primarily meat based, and that's kind of my baseline. And then over time, maybe I loosen up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, and then I'll recognize, okay, I'm not really liking how I'm feeling. I'm not liking how this is going. Let's kind of cut back on things. And I've had this good ebb and flow, but the positive sign of that is that I never flow back to I very rarely flow back to where I was before. If I make a sweeping change that has a positive impact, I've at times been disciplined enough to maintain that over a long period of time. That's not normal for people though, right? So a lot of people can spiral out, right? So the old, I always use the old, remember back in the day when we were lifting weights and stuff, it was the cheat day and you just go all out, balls to the wall on cheat day. That day will undo an entire week of good eating in a 24-hour period. If you really, yeah.
But then there's that. But then that brings up the question: why do you need a cheat day? Yeah, exactly. Because of cravings, right? 100%. Why do you have the cravings? 100%. Because we're putting, and like we've had like protein bars and all this healthy food and like paleo bars and paleo snacks and all this stuff. It's still processed food. It's just different ingredients. Yeah. It's still going to have the same effect hormonally.
That's why I say limit processed food. Like so. Are there times where I'm low on my calories that day and I want to drink I need to drink a protein shake to hit those macros because I have goals of, maintaining a fair level of muscle mass. Yeah. But that is, to me, it's always recognizing what you're doing and accounting for it. So if on my birthday, I had 2 small pieces of cake, I recognize, I recognize that that's not ideal. I made a conscious choice. And then I didn't spiral out because of it. I think there's power. There's power in the ability to do that. For some people, not everybody. Maybe for someone else that's having a drink. Now, if you're in AA and you're have a problem with alcohol, it's probably going to be really hard for you to have one drink and call it good. But if you're someone who's like me, I can have one drink in the middle of the day with lunch and be like, okay, cool, I'm good. I don't need to have another drink. You got to be able to recognize what isn't going to make you spiral out and try to avoid those things.
Well, it's listening to your body instead of listening to commercials.
Yeah, well, whoop, man, that's been huge for me because I recognize, if I get drunk, it's a couple of days of rebounding recovery where my body is literally telling me, no, you did damage to us yesterday. Mm-hmm. I am not recovered. And then the following day, we're a little bit recovered. Then finally the third day, okay, cool, we're back to baseline. So for me, is it worth that 3 days of feeling like crap or 2 days of feeling like crap in order to go out and get drunk one night? And it's just the simple math for me on that. Like, it's not.
Yeah, I don't miss alcohol at all. I haven't drank probably 2 years.
So I'm not saying everyone needs to do a GLP-1, but I've been doing some research and I haven't really come to a conclusion yet. But there is a phenomena, I could call it that, I guess, of trizepatide changing people's habits for the better in a multitude of ways. And alcohol is one of those. There's a massive reporting of people that had problems with alcohol before going on trizepatide and not even wanting alcohol anymore while they're on it, and very, very rarely when they come off it, which mirrors my experience with alcohol. I would drink in 1 week, I would drink a fifth of whiskey. And you say, oh my God, you're alcoholic. 2 glasses a night. If you start on Sunday, by Saturday, you've drank a fifth of whiskey. And you really have, just having 2 glasses of whiskey a night. That habit went away from me when I was on trizepatide, and it has not. I have not had the desire for that to come back since I've come off.
Well, my reasoning on that is what GLP-1 is glucagon like peptide 1, which is naturally
But there's a difference between GLP-1s, right? There's a difference between because there's like a dual agonist, which is trizepatide, single agonist, which is
but the naturally produced. It's a short chain and it has a half-life of 1 to 2
yeah.
minutes.
But I'm saying the mechanism which they work is different for each of them, right? And then there's the retatrutide now, which is a 3 agonist GLP-1.
Right. So let's say it this way. Anabolic steroids, right? Our body naturally produces testosterone, which has an anabolic effect.
Yes.
There's different types of steroids that you inject to do different things, whether it's endurance or strength.
But they're all androgens.
They're all androgens. And that's the same thing. I'm not saying GLP-1s are steroids. What I'm
Of course.
saying is the GLP-1 that we produce, it's a satiety hormone.
Yeah.
And you have others. You have peptide double Y, you have cholecystokinin or CCK. You have all these satiety hormones that your body produces once you start eating food. And the only food that kickstarts those or tells your body to release it is protein and fat. There are no satiety hormones for carbohydrates, and there's a reason for that. But
this is just like there's no there's essential amino acids. There's no essential carbohydrate.
There's no essential carbohydrate, but you have essential fatty acids and essential amino acids.
Yes.
All of which, by the way, just to throw that out there, you can get with 1 bite of red meat.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the ones that we're injecting are synthetic GLP-1s, and they have a half-life of anywhere from like a day to a week, just depending on which one you're taking.
Yeah.
So what that's doing is it's giving us this constant state of satiety, which makes us not hungry. And when we're not hungry, we don't eat. And so your body's hormones are becoming imbalanced. That's why the cravings go away, because that dopamine release isn't happening, and you're kind of causing a reset of your routines and your habits. Like, if you could eat any one junk food right now, what would it be?
Burger and fries.
Burger and fries? Have you craved that since you've done this diet? Like you drive by the McDonald's?
Not nearly as much. See, I never, not nearly. So to answer your first question, not nearly as much as I used to.
Right.
There are times where a burger and fries sounds good. But even before that, I could never, if I was going to eat a burger and fries, I can never imagine at this point in my life. When I was younger, I did, but resolved myself to like a fast food burger and fries. I want to go somewhere and sit down and have a proper
You want to be involved with your food.
yeah, I want someone in the back to make it like from scratch. I don't want to get something that someone wrapped up and threw it out there real quick. So like I go to a sit down restaurant and get a proper burger and fries. It's in my opinion always going to be better.
Right.
So I don't understand the appeal to fast food other than cost savings, which is a completely other discussion. Convenience and cost savings. There are times like we have a busy, our schedule.
Right.
We don't get out of here until 8:00 at night. We could easily go through fast food. And I'm not saying what we do is the best thing, but I think it's better. We'll go to QFC and go grab a boar's head wrap as opposed to getting a fast food hamburger, like a turkey bacon ranch wrap, boar's head from QFC. And that'll like be the baseline main part of our dinner. Not the best is making a home cooked meal for fresh ingredients at home. Not nearly as bad. I don't think anyone would argue a boar's head wrap is anywhere near as bad as getting a hamburger and a soda and fries from a fast food restaurant.
Right.
So it's not always about making the best choice, it's about making better choices.
But yeah, it is that. But we also have to figure out, why do people have these habits, and why do they have these routines where they seek out these types of foods?
You think cost is a big thing when it comes to fast food?
Well, we think it might be cost, but if you're looking,
If you had the time to meal prep, budget, and plan out your food, you could probably eat, especially nowadays with inflation, at home for less money than you spend on fast food. So I guess it would be a combination of factors, cost and time being two of those things.
the cost per unit of nutrient from health food, like let's say ribeye steak. So the cost per unit of nutrient I'm getting from that is going to be cheaper than the cost per unit of nutrient for fast food or candy.
So think about when we talk about satiation, think about like chips. I love chips, like Tim's Cascade jalapeno chips. I still get down on those every now and then. They literally, you're getting a high caloric, high calorie, high fat, pretty high sugar.
Salt, sugar, fat,
Yes.
all in one bite.
That literally dissolves in your mouth before almost anything hits your stomach.
No fiber.
So you're not going to be satiated. You're having high calories without getting that full feeling in your stomach because it's literally dissolving in your mouth before you even like put a good potato chip in your mouth and hold it there for a minute. It's going to be nothing left.
Right.
Before it ever hits your stomach.
Yeah.
So you're not triggering satiation, but you're getting high calorie food without the satiation you get from a steak. Where you get comparable calories in steak, you're going to feel full. You're going to feel that steak in your stomach when you're done eating, and you're not going to get that same thing from eating chips.
Well, so there's this thing called the optimal foraging theory. It's the OFT. And what this is it's a mathematical equation. It's calories in or potential calories gained minus calories expended divided by time. So you're left with this numerical number.
We're running low on battery. But
Okay, well, let's continue on next episode then.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and wrap then.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
We'll end with that. We've got 45 minutes already. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, thank you guys for watching. We'll keep going on this. He has his notes here, so we'll pick up where we left off next episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.
Thank you guys. You know why I like that conversation, though?
Why?